The moment I settled into the private jet my adoptive mother had arranged, I saw dozens of missed calls from Chloe on my phone along with a flood of unread iMessages. The press conference starts in half an hour. Ethan, where are you? Don't say I didn't warn you. If you don't show up today, I'll never let you lay a single finger on me again. For years ago, even a simple frown from her would have been enough to fill my entire day with anxiety. But now my heart was perfectly still with a chilling, almost absurd sense of calm. I turned off the phone, pulled out the SIM card, and tossed it. The plane began to taxi, and the immense thrust pressed me back into my seat. Through the window, the city I had called home for 4 years was rapidly shrinking behind me. I closed my eyes. Goodbye, Chloe. Goodbye, my biological parents. 4 years ago, our lives were never meant to cross. From this day forward, we would have nothing to do with each other ever again. Meanwhile, at the press conference, after sending yet another iMessage that went completely unanswered, Chloe finally lost her patience and dialed my number one more time. Unlike the previous calls that just rang endlessly, this time a cold, automated voice responded. We're sorry. The number you have dialed has been turned off. Turned off? Chloe's face instantly darkened. Her parents, my biological parents, leaned in. Chloe, did you get a hold of Ethan? Chloe just shook her head. My father's expression soured, and my mother was so distraught. She started to cry. All those reporters are waiting outside. If he doesn't show up, they'll be even more convinced that Julian is an imposter and that we've been wronged. I can't believe Ethan. Julian is in such a critical situation, and his own brother won't even say a single word to help. What did I do in a past life to deserve such a selfish son? My father put his arm around her, comforting her. Don't you worry. Ethan may have grown up with that questionable family and lacks any real class, but his feelings for Chloe are genuine. If Chloe tells him to be here, he wouldn't dare refuse. He sounded so sure of himself, but Chloe froze. A few days ago she would have agreed with them, certain that I would come running for her. But thinking back on my coldness over the last few days, how I'd even rejected her advances this morning, Chloe suddenly felt a wave of uncertainty. An inexplicable anxiety began to creep in. I'll go find him, she started to rise, but just then her assistant rushed in. Ms. Hayes, your husband, Ethan, has arrived. Chloe's eyes lit up as she strode out in her heels. She let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. In that instant, she couldn't tell if her relief came from the fact that I could now clear Julian's name or simply because my showing up proved that I still cared about her. But when she reached the doorway, she didn't see me at all. Instead, a man in a shop suit stood there. Ms. Hayes, the man said politely, I am Ethan's attorney. I'm here today to represent him at the press conference. Chloe's expression turned. I see. Where is Ethan? The lawyer smiled. Mr. Miller is unavailable. Unavailable? Chloe frowned. Is he sick? Now that she thought about it, my face had been unusually pale when she saw me earlier. She was about to press for details when my biological parents came out. Seeing that I hadn't come myself, their faces turned grim. What is Ethan thinking? Sending a lawyer to deal with us? Is he trying to give the media the wrong idea on purpose? Enough. This point, we'll have to let the lawyer make the clarification. Otherwise, the reporters out there will have a field day. Yes. At that moment, my parents and Chloe all assumed I had sent a lawyer to speak on my behalf to confirm that Julian was indeed my biological brother. The lawyer offered no explanation and simply walked up to the podium. Good morning, everyone. I am Mr. Davis, Ethan Miller's legal counsel. The lawyer wasted no time. I am here today to make 2 announcements on his behalf. First, Mr. Miller is formally severing all ties with the Miller family. From this day forward, he and the Millers will have no further association. The room erupted, severing ties with the Millers. Didn't that just confirm the rumors that they favored the impostor son, forcing the true heir to leave in despair? My biological parents' faces went pale with rage. On stage, Mr. Davis continued. Second, Mr. Miller has initiated legal proceedings to file for divorce from Ms. Chloe Hayes. Chloe's head snapped up. He was divorcing her. Before she could even process the shock, the reporters erupted. Ms. Hayes, is your divorce related to Julian Miller? Julian wasn't stealing Ethan's place as the Miller heir enough? Did you have to steal his wife, too? Amid the chaos, bodyguards rushed in to shield Chloe and the others, ushering them away. At that very moment, I was already touching down in Milan. As I stepped out of the VIP terminal, I was greeted by the sight of several hundred men in black suits lined up in two perfect rows. In unison, they boomed, "Welcome home, sir." My adoptive parents then stepped forward to embrace me. Father exclaiming, "Ethan, you came back on such short notice. Otherwise, I would have booked every public square in Europe to celebrate. Dad, you're being too dramatic." It was precisely this flair for the dramatic that had made me hesitant to have them visit me in the States all these years. But even as I feigned complaint, I couldn't suppress the smile spreading across my face. Felt so good being cared for like this. My adoptive mother, her eyes glistening with tears, pulled me into a tight hug. "Whatever happened, you're home now, and that's all that matters." Then she looked me over, her brow furrowing. "It's only been a few years. How did you get so thin? What on earth did the Millers and Chloe do to you?" As she said that last part, a dangerous glint flashed in her eyes. I hadn't told her the details, but she had already sent people to find out exactly how my biological parents and Chloe had been treating her beloved son. The thought made her burn with anger. "Son, are you sure you don't want your father and me to settle the score for you? You know, whether it's the Hayes family or the Millers, we could make them pay with a snap of our fingers." Knew she wasn't exaggerating, but I just shook my head gently. "There's no need. They're strangers to me now. I had already wasted 4 precious years of my life on them. I wasn't going to waste another second." With that thought, I put my arm around my mother. "Mom, I'm craving your pasta. Let's go home." I got into the car first. Once I was out of earshot, my father asked my mother, "Honey, are we really just going to let the Millers and Chloe get away with it?" My mother gave a cold laugh. "Of course not. After how they treated Ethan, I would never let them off the hook. Darling, start the preparations." Her expression was glacial. "In 1 month, we're taking Ethan back to the States. Ourselves. I'm going to make every single one of them pay." Back in Chicago, the press conference ended in utter chaos. As they were leaving, a pale-faced Julian gripped Chloe's hand. "Chloe, Ethan is trying to ruin me. Everyone knows I'm not the real Miller heir. I'm going to lose my home." Chloe frowned, her mind elsewhere. "The Millers have always treated you like their own son." "But I'm not their son," Julianne sobbed. "I want a real family, but my birth parents abandoned me. You're the only person I can truly love." Chloe was startled, and looking down, she saw Julian gazing at her with deep emotion. "Chloe, I know you've loved me all these years. The only thing keeping us apart was your marriage to Ethan. Now that he's filed for divorce, can we finally be together?" He pulled her into an embrace, leaning in to kiss her. But Chloe went completely rigid. She had always imagined this moment being truly intimate with Julian. Whenever she and I had tried, it was always Julian she pictured in her mind. Yet now, as his lips met hers, she felt nothing. Instead, my image inexplicably flashed through her mind. My sun-kissed skin, my solid chest. Chloe pushed him away abruptly. Julian stared up at her incredulous. "Who said Ethan and I are divorced?" she said coldly. "Until I sign those papers, he is still my husband." Without another word, she got out of the car, leaving Julian sitting there, his face ashen. Chloe rushed home. "Ethan, get out here," she screamed, demanding an explanation for the divorce. But the house remained silent, no matter how loud she yelled. "He's not back yet." Chloe's brow furrowed as she found our driver. "Did Ethan not come home after leaving the club this morning?" The driver looked confused. "No, ma'am, he didn't come home. He went to the airport." Chloe froze, the color draining from her face. What was he doing at the airport? The driver, startled by her reaction, stammered, "I don't know. I assumed you knew, ma'am. Now that I think of it, he took a call in the car. I heard him say something about going home, and he called the person." Chloe stood motionless. The mom I'd spoken to obviously wasn't my biological mother, which meant it had to be my adoptive mother. Her eyes widened as the realization hit her. I had gone back to Italy. She raced upstairs and found my study empty. My passport and all my luggage were gone. Her face went white. I wasn't just divorcing her. I was leaving the country. A knot tightened in her chest. She whirled around to her assistant. "Get to the airport now. Prep the private jet. I'm going to Italy." Chloe's assistant was making the arrangements when a call came in from her mother. "Chloe, where are you?" "Julian tried to kill himself." Chloe's hand holding the phone froze. "A private jet would take time to prep anyway," she told her assistant. "Have the plane ready. I'll be at the airport in an hour." "Understood," the assistant replied. "Which city in Italy should I file the flight plan for?" Chloe stopped short. She suddenly realized that while she knew my adoptive parents were in Italy, she had no idea where. I might have mentioned it before, but she had never paid enough attention to remember. A wave of frustration washed over her. Just investigate all of today's flights to Italy and find out which city Ethan flew to. When Chloe got to the hospital, Julian was hysterical. "You should have just let me die. Everyone knows I'm an imposter now. What's the point of even being alive?" The old Chloe would have found his despair endearing. But today, she just felt irritated. For some reason, her thoughts drifted to me. No matter how wronged I was, I always dealt with it quietly, never making a scene or burdening anyone else. A sharp pang went through her heart. As she entered the room, she heard my father's indignant voice. "What the hell is Ethan trying to pull? A divorce, severing ties. Now everyone is convinced we're the villains who tormented him. Maybe that was his plan all along." My mother sneered. "To make everyone think we abused him. He's so young, but his heart is so malicious. Utterly shameless. If you hadn't heard it yourself, you would never believe a mother could speak about her own son that way." My parents looked up and saw Chloe. "Chloe, did you find Ethan? If you did, you tell him to get over here right now and get on his knees to apologize to Julian." Chloe's frustration grew. "He went back to Italy." "What?" My parents were stunned. My mother was the first to recover. "He went back to them. That ungrateful brat were his real parents. Why would he go back to those paupers?" My father, however, was dismissive. "Let him go. He'll come crawling back in a few days." I refused to believe he'd give up his position as the Miller heir for that poor couple. "Really?" Chloe's brow furrowed, "but he's filed for divorce." Just saying the word made her chest feel tight. To her surprise, my parents actually laughed. "Don't be silly, Chloe. You don't really think he wants a divorce, do you? It's obviously just a manipulative tactic. Him playing hard to get." Before Chloe could respond, her assistant entered the room. "Ms. Hayes, I've checked. His name wasn't on the passenger list for any commercial flight to Italy today." My mother scoffed. "See, I told you this whole divorce and going to Italy thing is just an act." Her voice dripped with contempt. Beside them, Chloe discreetly breathed a sigh of relief. Thank God he hadn't left, but if he was still here, where was he? Chloe felt a growing unease and was about to go look for me when her father's phone rang. "What?" he answered, his face instantly paling. Stellar Group is terminating all of our contracts. Chloe stopped in her tracks. Her father hung up and looked at her, panicked. This is a disaster, Chloe. Stellar just terminated all of our contracts and all of the Hayes family's contracts, too. Now Chloe's face changed. Stellar Group was a massive conglomerate. For the past few years, over half of both the Miller and Hayes family businesses relied on partnerships with Stellar. If they pulled out, it could mean bankruptcy. For the next few days, Chloe was swamped, trying to manage the fallout with Stellar Group while simultaneously searching for me. She had assumed I was just throwing a tantrum and would come back after a few days. But days turned into a week and I was still gone. Chloe called her assistant again. Are you absolutely certain Ethan didn't go to Italy? I've checked every commercial flight. The assistant confirmed. His name isn't on any of them. There was one private flight, but the passenger manifest is sealed. Chloe paused. Private jet. The Millers would never let me use theirs, and her own jet hadn't moved. Couldn't have been me. Still, a nagging worry persisted, and she was considering a trip to Italy when her father called. Chloe, Mr. Lockwood himself, is coming to Chicago in 2 days with his wife and son. This is our chance. The Lockwood family was one of the wealthiest families in Europe. Chloe's own research had revealed that the Lockwood fortune was the financial backing behind the entire Stellar Group. She had tried and failed multiple times to get a meeting with Stellar's top brass. A direct visit from the Lockwoods was the perfect opportunity. With that, Chloe temporarily abandoned her plan to search for me. 3 days later, at the grandest hotel in downtown Chicago, the Lockwoods were hosting a gala, and it seemed every influential person in the country was in attendance. Julian was there as Chloe's date, accompanied by my parents. Stepping out of their car, they stared in awe at the endless parade of luxury vehicles. Chloe's friends were there too. Wow, the Lockwoods really don't do things by halves. This is incredible. I heard they brought their son with them this time. The sole Lockwood heir. He's the ultimate bachelor. I can't wait to see him. As everyone buzzed about the Lockwood heir, Chloe turned and saw a familiar blonde woman approaching. The woman smiled. Hayes, we meet again. Chloe's expression instantly froze. What are you doing here? It was the woman she had seen me with. The woman smiled, handing Chloe a business card. Our last meeting was rather abrupt. I didn't get a chance to introduce myself properly. My name is Isabella Frost. I'm a senior manager at Stellar Group. I believe we have some divestment details to discuss. My father quickly interjected. Chloe, you know someone from Stellar? Chloe's expression was grim. I saw her with Ethan. My parents were floored. They had never imagined I could be connected to someone as important as a manager from Stellar Group. Then a sudden realization dawned on my father. Wait a minute, Miss Frost. Your sudden decision to terminate our contracts, it doesn't have anything to do with Ethan, does it? Isabella raised an eyebrow. Before she could answer, my father pleaded. Miss Frost, I don't know what lies that ungrateful son of mine has been telling you, but please don't believe a word of it. He's just jealous of his brother and throwing a childish tantrum. The more he spoke, the more convinced he became. After all, their partnership with Stellar had been long and profitable. Stellar was always generous. It made no sense for them to pull out so suddenly. But if I had a close relationship with their management, it all added up. I must have slandered the Miller and Hayes businesses after cutting ties, convincing Stellar to back out. The thought made him furious, and his words grew uglier. That Ethan is nothing but a liability. It's bad enough he causes trouble at home, but now he's interfering with the business. That ungrateful brat. Just wait until I get my hands on him. I'll kill him. Hearing this, Isabella's expression turned to ice. Mr. Miller, if you say one more word of this nonsense, don't expect me to be polite. I was initially planning a gradual withdrawal of our investments out of concern for your cash flow. But if you dare insult him again, I will pull everything at once and personally ensure you go bankrupt." The Millers and Chloe were stunned to see Isabella defend me so fiercely. Finally, Julian spoke up with a sneer. "Miss Frost, you're just a manager at Stellar, aren't you? You're not the one in charge, yet you'd cancel major partnerships for Ethan's sake. Aren't you afraid of angering your actual boss? What exactly is your relationship with him that you'd risk your career for him?" As he spoke, Julian glanced at Chloe and saw her expression darken as he'd intended. But, to his surprise, Isabella just laughed. "You're right. I am just a manager," she said, her voice turning sharp. "But the order to terminate your contracts came directly from the chairman of Stellar Group." Chloe's voice was cold. "Who is your chairman? I want to meet him." "I'm afraid that won't be possible," Isabella said with a strange smile. "Besides, Miss Hayes, you've already met our chairman." Chloe was taken aback when Stellar had been her company's biggest client for years, but she had only ever dealt with project leads. This was her first time even meeting a senior manager like Isabella, let alone the actual owner. Isabella gave a mocking laugh. "Don't you get it yet, Miss Hayes? The true chairman of Stellar Group is your soon-to-be ex-husband, Ethan." "What?" Julian burst out laughing. "Are you kidding me? He's a nobody who grew up poor. Where would he get the money to own a company? It's obvious you two are involved, and you're just making this up to protect him." The surrounding crowd chuckled in agreement. "Looks like Ethan really hit the jackpot. Imagine having a woman like that in your corner." Chloe's expression grew darker with every word. Just as the mocking continued, a black custom-stretch Lincoln pulled up to the curb, its limited edition design standing out, even among the other high-end cars. Everyone stopped to watch as the door opened and a figure in a black suit emerged. Someone in the crowd gasped. "That's a custom couture suit. It hasn't even debuted on the runway yet. I've only seen pictures online. It must be the Lockwood Heir." The crowd's curiosity piqued, and even Chloe found herself staring. The moment she saw the man's face, she went completely still. Others recognized him at the same time, and my mother gasped. "Ethan, it was me." Stepping out of the car after being missing for weeks. I didn't even notice Chloe and her entourage. I was on the phone with my adoptive mother. "I know, Mom. I just finished my visit to the orphanage. I've changed and I'm right at the entrance." A few days ago, my adoptive parents had told me they had business in the States and wanted me to come along. I agreed without thinking much of it, only to find out my mother had planned this whole gala. I hate these events, but I can never say no to her. I spent the day visiting the orphanage I grew up in, making a sizable donation of funds and supplies, and by the time I arrived, the party was about to begin. I hung up and was about to head inside when someone blocked my path. I looked up to see my biological parents. "Ethan, where have you been? And this car, how much did you waste renting it? Do you think our money grows on trees?" They clearly assumed I had used their money. The allowance they gave me couldn't possibly cover a car like this. So, in their minds, it had to be a rental, and that just made them angrier. So much for severing ties. "You have no problem spending our money, do you?" Mother said coldly. "And that suit you're wearing," Julian chimed in. "You can't even buy that suit. It must be a knockoff." My mother exploded. "You're wearing a fake to an event like this? Are you trying to humiliate the Miller family? Get back in that car right now." She tried to shove me toward the Lincoln, but I pushed her hand away. "I told you we're done. Don't touch me." I turned to leave, but a slim figure stepped into my path. I looked up. It was Chloe. "Ethan, where have you been?" she demanded, her voice sharp. "What are you wearing? And what is going on between you and that Isabella Frost?" I met her gaze. "It's none of your business." It had only been a few weeks, but as Chloe looked at me, It felt like a lifetime had passed. She had always known I was handsome, not in the delicate way Julian was, but with a rugged, masculine appeal, but the Millers had never bothered to buy me decent clothes. I always wore Julian's ill-fitting hand-me-downs. Now I looked like a prince. What had happened to me? I gave her a cool glance. Just sign the divorce papers when you get a chance. My lawyer had told me she was refusing to sign. I could force it through the courts, but I didn't want to drag it out. It would be easier if she just signed. Chloe's eyes widen. Ethan, why are you so determined to divorce me? Is it because I wouldn't sleep with you? She was about to lose her temper when a member of the event staff approached us. Excuse me, everyone. Could I please see your invitations? You can continue your conversation inside. Our group was blocking the entrance. Noticing the curious stares from all around, Chloe forced herself to calm down. Go home, she ordered coldly. I'll deal with you after this gala. I just laughed. Go home. Can't you tell I'm here for the party? At that, Chloe's friends burst into laughter. Ethan, do you have any idea where you are? This is the Lockwood family's gala. Exactly. Do you even know who the Lockwoods are? They're one of the wealthiest families in Europe. Even if you are involved with Isabella Frost, you think that gets you an invitation to their private gala? That's the funniest thing I've ever heard. Meanwhile, the staff member finished checking everyone else's invitations and turned to me. Sir, your invitation? I didn't produce one. Chloe's friends howled with laughter. My father's face was red with shame. Ethan, did you really think you could crash this party by renting a car and wearing a fake suit? Stop humiliating the Miller family and get out of here. If you have any decency, you'll go and beg Miss Frost for forgiveness. You ungrateful child. Do you really want to see our family go bankrupt? My mother reached for my arm again, but I pulled away. Your problems have nothing to do with me. And you're right. I don't have an invitation. I looked coolly at the staff member. My parents are hosting this party for me. Why would I need one? The area fell silent. Then Chloe's friends erupted in hysterical laughter. A party for you? Are you trying to say you're the Lockwoods' only son? Ethan, everyone knows you're the Miller family's resident hick. We haven't seen you in a while. Were you getting treated for delusions of grandeur? Because it clearly didn't work. You're still talking in your sleep. They were laughing so hard they were crying. My parents were livid. You've lost your mind. Spouting such nonsense. My mother grabbed my arm roughly. Get back here now. Her grip was harsh. Chloe's expression hardened and she moved to intervene. But just then, what seems to be the problem here? A commanding voice cut through the noise. Everyone fell silent and looked up to see a man and a woman emerging from the hotel. Someone gasped. It's Mr. and Mrs. Lockwood. The mood shifted instantly. My mother quickly smoothed her dress and composed herself. Mrs. as Lockwood walked toward us, her eyes landing on the red marks on my wrist where my mother had grabbed me. Her expression turned to ice. What is going on? My mother opened her mouth to explain, but Julian cut her off. It's nothing, Mrs. Lockwood. My brother is just being foolish, making a joke about being your son. A collective gasp went through the onlookers. My parents panicked. Even though I was the one who said it, they were terrified of the consequences for the Miller family. My father quickly jumped in. Our apologies. Our son has some issues. Please forgive his foolishness. My parents watched the Lockwoods nervously, but their expressions only grew colder. Oh, ridiculous, Mr. Lockwood said, his voice dripping with contempt. I've watched Ethan grow up. I wasn't aware he had any issues. The entire area fell silent. My parents stood there stunned, unable to process his words. Before they could, Mrs. Lockwood pulled me into an embrace, tenderly rubbing my wrist. My darling boy, are you all right? Those words, my darling boy, left everyone frozen. Julian was the first to find his voice, blurting out, "Ethan, your adoptive parents are the Lockwoods." Mrs. Lockwood looked up at him, her voice sharp. "Adoptive? Ethan is our son." Her statement confirmed it. Everyone was speechless, especially Chloe's friends who had been mocking me moments before. Their faces went white with terror. Ethan, the country bumpkin, was the Lockwood heir. Remembering their earlier taunts, they were terrified and rushed to apologize. "Ethan, we were just spouting nonsense earlier. Please don't take it to heart. Please be the bigger person and forgive us." I frowned, about to say I didn't care, but my mother cut in, her voice like steel. "Actions have consequences. Is that a concept you fail to grasp?" The silence returned heavier than before. My mother's gaze was chilling. "The few of you who insulted my son will bring your parents to our home to offer a formal apology. As for the rest of you," she turned her eyes to my biological parents and Chloe, "Ethan was merciful. He only terminated your contracts. I, however, am not so kind. I want you bankrupt." Mrs. Lockwood was true to her word. With swift and brutal efficiency, she dismantled the Miller and Hayes supply chains. The Miller family teetered on the edge of bankruptcy. My biological parents started waiting outside my hotel every day, hoping to appeal to me with our blood connection. But the Lockwoods ensured they never even got close. Chloe, however, proved more resilient. She managed to stabilize her company, but the effort was immense, leaving her exhausted and overwhelmed. One evening, as she left the office, she found Julian waiting for her. "Chloe," he said, his eyes welling up, "my parents haven't spoken to me in days. I didn't know what else to do, so I came to find you." Clearly, with their own world collapsing, my parents had no time for him anymore. Chloe's voice was weary. "What do you want, Julian?" "A promise," he said, looking at her anxiously. "You're not going to be like them, are you? Now that you know who Ethan's family is, you're not going to choose him over me, are you? When are you going to finalize the divorce?" Julian was genuinely terrified. He thought he had one when I left, but he never imagined my adoptive family would be so powerful. Now, his own parents wanted nothing to do with him. If Chloe abandoned him too, he would have nothing left. Hearing the word divorce, Chloe's expression shifted. "Ethan and I are not officially divorced. Don't talk like that." She turned to leave, but Julian's voice, raw with desperation, stopped her. "So you are just like them. You only care about the Lockwood name. How could you do this to me? Did you forget the promise you made me before you married him? Did you forget I've been waiting for you all these years? Did you forget who it was that saved you from that ravine during the hunting trip?" His anguished questions made a flicker of guilt cross Chloe's face, but his last sentence made her pause. She looked at him sharply. "What did you just say?" "You saved me from a ravine, Julian." His eyes red, replied, "Yes, what's wrong with that?" Chloe's eyes narrowed. "But I passed out in a cave." Julian froze. "When Chloe was lost on that hunting trip, I went in after her, ignoring the dangers to bring her out. But while I was recovering, Julian claimed all the credit. He didn't actually know what happened out there. He just heard the doctors mention she had injuries consistent with a fall. So he invented the story about rescuing her from a ravine. He scrambled to patch his story together. But Chloe ran a corporate empire. She was not easily fooled." She narrowed her eyes, her voice turning cold. "Did you encounter any wild animals in the woods that day?" Julian couldn't meet her gaze. "No," he mumbled. The last bit of warmth vanished from Chloe's eyes. She may have been unconscious, but she remembered hearing the sound of wolves howling and then a gunshot. Previously, Chloe had been so consumed by gratitude and guilt over Julian saving her that she never questioned the details. But thinking back now, she realized it was impossible. With his limited riding and hunting skills, There was no way Julian could have saved her from a pack of wolves. But if it wasn't Julian, then who was it? An answer rose, chilling and undeniable. Chloe grabbed Julian's arm. "Julian," she said, her voice stripped of its usual warmth, now laced with ice. "You know I despise liars more than anything. I'm giving you one last chance. Who was the person who actually saved me?" Julian had never seen her like this. Under the immense pressure, he broke. "It was Ethan," he cried out. "Ethan was the one who saved you." Chloe felt the strength drain from her body, and she stumbled backward. Meanwhile, Chloe's ever-efficient assistant had overheard the exchange and immediately contacted the staff at the hunting reserve. After a few brief calls, she had the full story. She leaned in and spoke softly. "M. Hayes, I've confirmed it. It was indeed Mr. Miller who rescued you that day. And not only that, he fought off a pack of wolves to get to you. He was bitten several times." Chloe shuddered. He had been bitten by wolves. No wonder he looked so pale when he returned. And yet, he hadn't said a single word. Was it because it didn't hurt? Of course not. It was because he knew. He knew that no matter how much pain he was in, he wouldn't receive a single ounce of sympathy from my parents or from her. The thought felt like a fist closing around her heart. Without a moment's hesitation, she turned to leave. Julian, snapping out of his stupor, yelled after her. "Chloe, where are you going?" "So I lied." "So what? Don't you love me?" "Telling you, if you go to Ethan today, don't you ever come back to me for a moment?" Chloe's steps faltered. Julian's eyes lit up, thinking he had won. But then she spoke, her voice flat and cold. "Then I guess we won't." And with that, she walked away without a backward glance. Chloe was desperate to find me. She had held back before, wanting to stabilize her company first. She refused to appear incompetent in front of the Lockwoods. But now, knowing that I had saved her life, she couldn't wait another second. But I refused to see her. She was frantic. Her parents were frantic too. "I told you to treat Ethan better," her mother said. "If you had been kinder, he never would have left. If you two had a child, he would never have even thought of leaving you." A child? Chloe froze. Then a sudden realization made her eyes light up. That's right, the child. How could she have forgotten? Chloe rushed to the fertility clinic, finding the doctor who had handled our case. She got straight to the point. "Our embryos, Ethan's and mine. I want to start the implantation process now." She had just remembered the embryos they had frozen. It was their child, a link between them. She was certain that if she were pregnant with our child, I would come back to her. But the doctor looked uncomfortable. "Ms. Hayes, I'm sorry. Your husband had all the embryos destroyed." "What did you say?" The color drained from Chloe's face. The doctor hesitantly explained what had happened. "It's not that I didn't want to inform you, Miss Hayes," he added quickly. "But Mr. Miller bought the entire clinic. He became my boss. I had no choice but to follow his orders and keep it confidential." The doctor continued to make excuses, but Chloe wasn't listening anymore. She stumbled backward, a horrifying realization dawning on her. Ethan, he must have been planning the divorce even then. But why? Why was he so determined to leave her? Finally she couldn't bear it any longer and came to my hotel. She waited outside for 3 days and 3 nights, finally catching us on the day we were scheduled to leave the country. The moment my parents saw her, they moved to call security, but I held up a hand to stop them. "I'll talk to her." I walked over to where she stood, looking haggard, her eyes red-rimmed. "Ethan," she said, her voice raw, "can we please work this out? I promise I'll be good to you from now on. We can be together properly. Just please don't leave me." She had spent days agonizing over why I wanted a divorce, and the only reason she could come up with was her refusal to be intimate, her saving herself for Julian. 3 years of marriage. without consummation was more than any man could be expected to endure. She believed that if she just promised to be a real wife to me, to finally give herself to me, I would come back. After all, she knew better than anyone how deeply I had once loved her. So she began, "I promise from now on is enough." I cut her off, my voice cold. Looked at her at the desperate, almost comical expression on her face. "Chloe, do you honestly believe this is just about sex?" Chloe froze. "Let me make this clear," I continued, my voice devoid of any warmth. "I wanted you before because I loved you, but I don't love you anymore." Those 4 words struck her like a physical blow, her fists clenched at her sides. "That's impossible," she choked out. "You can't not love me." Knew how much I had adored her. I was the man who would stay up all night to cook her favorite soup from scratch. The man who spent months carving her a birthday present by hand. How could that love just disappear? "Ethan, stop lying," she pleaded. "If you don't love me, then why did you risk your life to save me?" Yes, even now she was convinced this was all just a reaction to her mistreatment, a childish fit of pique. She believed that if she just apologized properly, I would come running back. But her words only earned a cold laugh from me. "Yes, I saved you," I said flatly. "But that was only to settle a debt." Her expression froze. "You saved me when I was kidnapped all those years ago," continued, my voice like ice. "So, I figured a life for a life, we'd be even." Except a bitter smile touched my lips. "I found out that kidnapping was a complete setup. I never owed you anything at all." The color drained from her face. "Wait, Ethan. You know I know everything." I cut her off. "I know you only married me for your family's sake. I know you planned to divorce me all along, to humiliate me, as revenge for taking what you thought was Julian's rightful place." "But Chloe," I said with a humorless smile, "tell me something. Was it my fault I got lost as a child? Did I ask to be found by the Millers? Did I have any say in our engagement? None of it had anything to do with me. From the very beginning, every single thing was a decision made for me, a role I was forced to play. So why am I the one who gets all the blame?" I looked her straight in the eye, finally asking the one question that had haunted me for years. "Chloe, what did I ever do wrong?" Staring at my cold, unforgiving face, Chloe felt her heart shatter into a million pieces. "No, Ethan, listen." She opened her mouth to explain, but no words came out. I couldn't even look at her anymore. "I know that before I showed up, you, Julian, and my biological parents had a perfect little life. My arrival ruined everything for you," I said, my voice flat, devoid of anger or resentment. "So now I'm leaving. Everything can go back to the way it was. Isn't that what you all wanted?" With that, I turned and walked away without a second glance. "Ethan," Chloe cried out, wanting to run after me, but her feet felt rooted to the spot, heavy as lead. Finally, her assistant couldn't stand it anymore. "Hayes, why don't you tell him the real story?" Chloe asked numbly. "What real story?" "The truth about the kidnapping," the assistant said urgently. "You may have planned the fake one, but you were seriously injured saving him from the real one." Very few people knew the real story of the kidnapping. Even Chloe's closest friends believed she had orchestrated the whole thing. But it was more complicated than that. Chloe had planned a fake kidnapping, but her plan was intercepted by a real gang. They took out her hired actors and kidnapped both Julian and me for real. So when my parents chose Julian and left me behind, my life was truly in danger. Those men were killers and they fully intended to get rid of me. It was Chloe who, upon learning the truth, had stormed their hideout alone. She was stabbed 3 times and nearly died getting me out of there. The memory made her dizzy. For years she had asked herself why she had done it, why she had risked everything to save me. She always told herself it was because the whole mess was her fault. If I had died, The guilt would have destroyed her, and it would have ruined the relationship between our families. But deep down, she knew that wasn't the real reason. In that moment, she hadn't been thinking at all. There was only one overwhelming impulse. She could not let me die. For a fleeting moment, she wondered if maybe even back then, she had already fallen in love with me. And now, finally, she was ready to admit the truth to herself. She loved me. When I first returned, she had resented me for suddenly appearing, for taking Julian's place, for inexplicably becoming her fiancé. She had only agreed to the marriage under pressure from her parents. Her plan was to marry me, then divorce me a year or two later, satisfying her family while also punishing me for Julian's sake. But somewhere along the line, everything had changed. Was it when she was feigning affection and saw me blush as I shyly thanked her? Was it the first time she kissed me? She thought she was manipulating me, but somewhere in the game, she had lost her own heart. That's why she had been more frantic than anyone when she learned I was in real danger. It's why on our wedding day, she had been secretly happier than anyone. And it's why for 3 years, even after she had the power and independence to divorce me at any time, she never did. The truth was, she had loved me for a long time, she just couldn't admit it. Because on our wedding day, Julian had tried to kill himself. She had rushed to his side, and he had begged her with tears in his eyes to promise that she would never be a real wife to me. Looking at the man she thought she was supposed to love, she had made that promise. And Chloe always kept her word. So even though she desired me, even though she longed for me, she kept her promise to him. She pushed me away, treated me with cold indifference, all to keep herself from breaking that vow. And in doing so, she had destroyed us. At this realization, a metallic taste filled her mouth, and a violent cough racked her body. She collapsed, spitting a mouthful of blood onto the pavement. Ms. Hayes, Chloe, was rushed to the hospital. The test results were shocking. She had cancer, an aggressive and insidious form that had gone undetected until it was already in its final stages. The doctor's expression was grim. Ms. Hayes, the most effective treatment available is a specialized stem cell therapy. The best course of action would be for you to have a child. We can harvest the necessary cells during the pregnancy. It's a safe procedure and poses no risk to the baby. Chloe was stunned. Her parents and Julian had rushed to the hospital. The moment Julian heard the diagnosis, he lost his mind. All their previous arguments forgotten. "Have my child," he blurted out. He gripped her hand tightly. "Chloe, you don't have to marry me. You don't have to promise me anything. Just have a baby to save your life." He was being sincere. For all his scheming, his love for his childhood friend was real. He would do anything to save her. But Chloe coldly pulled her hand away. "No." The color drained from Julian's face. Her parents started sobbing. "Chloe, this is no time to be stubborn. Please." Julian, with tears streaming down his face, pleaded, "I know you hate me, right? It doesn't have to be me. Find a stranger. Use a donor. Anything as long as you have a child that can save you." "No," she said again, her voice unwavering. "My child will be Ethan's or no one's." Julian's face went as white as a sheet. Chloe then turned to her assistant. "Go to Italy. Tell Ethan I'm sick and tell him that unless he agrees to have a child with me, I will refuse all treatment." The next day in Milan, I had just woken up when my mother came into my room. A complicated look on her face. "Mom," I asked, "is something wrong?" She hesitated for a moment before speaking. "I received a message from Chicago from Chloe. She wanted me to tell you something." I was surprised, but my response was immediate and firm. "I don't want to hear it." Her eyes searched mine. "Ethan, are you sure?" To be honest, her first instinct had been to refuse to even listen to the message. But the content had stunned her. She couldn't believe Chloe was terminally ill, nor could she believe the woman's cruelty, using her own life and treatment as a weapon to force my hand. It was the ultimate moral blackmail. Hadn't wanted to tell me, but a life was on the line, and she worried I might regret it later. This is about her life. Ethan, she said gently. Are you absolutely sure? But I didn't hesitate. I don't want to hear it, I said calmly. Even if she dies, it has nothing to do with me. I wasn't being cruel or emotional. I was simply stating a fact. The moment I left Chicago, I had severed all ties to her. Whatever happened to her now was not my concern. My mother looked at me for a long moment, and then a relieved smile spread across her face. Good. I knew my son had a strong backbone. She walked to the door and spoke to the person waiting outside, her voice like ice. Go back and tell Chloe Hayes that my son is not her medicine. If she wants to live, she can find another way. She will not threaten him. For me, the incident was a pebble dropped into a lake. A brief ripple and then nothing. 6 months passed. A lot happened in that time. The Miller family went bankrupt and my biological parents became ordinary working-class people. Once the money was gone, Julian's true colors showed. He was no longer their devoted son. They finally realized he had never loved them, only their fortune. They were filled with regret, but it was too late. The Hayes family didn't go bankrupt, but their company was a shadow of its former self. One day, I received a visit from Chloe's lawyer. I assumed it was about some final detail of the divorce settlement, but he got straight to the point. Mr. Miller, I'm sorry to inform you that Miss Hayes has passed away. Her will states that her entire estate is to be left to you. I was stunned. Chloe was dead. I found myself at a cemetery in Chicago, staring at her black and white photograph on a polished headstone. My feelings were complicated. I never imagined that, when we parted 6 months ago, it would be for the last time. My mother, standing beside me, spoke softly. Ethan, do you blame me? She sent that message that she would refuse treatment unless you agreed to have a child with her. But you said you didn't care if she lived or died. So, I made the decision not to burden you with the details. If you're angry, be angry with me. I turned from the grave and smiled at her. Mom, don't be silly. You were perfectly clear. I'm the one who said her life and death had nothing to do with me. It wasn't your decision. It was mine. Her eyes flickered with uncertainty. But if I had told you everything, even if you had, I said calmly, I wouldn't have saved her. It was her life to live or to throw away. She couldn't use it as a chain to bind me. So, she had kept her word. After my refusal, she had refused all other options. Without the treatment, she hadn't lasted 6 months. And knowing this, I felt no guilt, no regret. Others might see her actions as a grand romantic gesture. I only saw them as emotional blackmail. Maybe she did love me, but a love that comes so late is worthless, and her final act was repulsive. Did she think that because she loved me, she had the right to use her own life to threaten me, to force me back to her, to create a child? Not out of love, but out of desperation, to chain me to her forever? That isn't love. It's pure selfishness. She was sick. All right. But not just with cancer. I looked down at her picture. Even in death, she only thought of herself. But she was wrong. I wouldn't be trapped by her guilt trip. I had become indifferent to her long before I left. And her death didn't change a thing. So I turned and walked away from her grave without hesitation. Donate her entire estate to charity. I told the lawyer later. I don't want any of it. As for Julian, I heard he was genuinely devastated by Chloe's death for a while. But life goes on, and he eventually found himself a wealthy older woman to be his benefactor. Unfortunately for him, her husband was a ruthless man who had Julian beaten so badly he was permanently disfigured. With his looks gone, he had nothing left and he died. Alone from some wretched disease. So much changed in just 1 year. My life was finally back on track, finally my own. From now on, the sky was the limit, and my future was nothing but